Money Radio, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the review. It's a pleasure to welcome James Knollmiller from the firm of Knollmiller and Aronofsky, LLP. Jim Knollmiller and the team at Knollmiller and Aronofsky are involved in a few different areas of legal practice, but one area in particular is estate planning. And then, Jim, you're also a CPA. Jim, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Sinclair.
Nice combination there of CPA and estate planning.
Well, it comes in very handy because you're dealing with not only personal issues, but you're dealing with financial issues. And to understand how these financial issues are affected by estate planning helps being able to look at this as not only an attorney, but as a CPA.
And a lot of the estate planning issues really are tax issues.
That's right. I mean, today you have both estate taxes and you have income tax issues. And I'm a certified tax specialist and have been for a number of years. And as my CPA background allows me to look at your plan not only from a planning standpoint, but from all the tax issues, both estate and income tax, that might be appropriate in your case.
And also, as you're looking at the taxes on an annual basis, you may see something in a tax return that doesn't quite match up with an estate plan, and it may bring about a call for an update.
That is correct. I mean, part of my work is what we call tax compliance. We prepare a number of tax returns for individuals, and in doing so, you see it's pretty hard to miss your financial future when you prepare a tax return. You reveal everything.
Right.
And I'll see things in there that, wait a minute, nobody discussed this in your, you have this large investment in this company, but you didn't discuss this in your estate plan. And now you have significant interest in this company. How do you want that company's, when you pass away, to go? Because you haven't covered it in any detail in your plan.
And whether you're acquiring or selling different assets, that will show up on taxes that should then be reflected in the estate plan. I know a lot of Money Radio listeners, thank goodness, they've been listening to us over the years, and I think most of them have the idea in mind that they have to have some sort of an estate plan. I hope that there are very few people listening right now who don't have something. But the question is it up to date? Is it effective? And I think a lot of folks probably are not up to date and don't really have the type of estate plan that they would truly want to have.
That's correct, Sinclair. The tax laws, the state tax laws are always changing. In fact, we have court decisions coming down daily that some of those have major effect on estate planning. And of course, the tax laws, both the income taxes and estate taxes, are changed constantly. If you think Congress is going to leave the tax law alone, I can sell you a bridge, I think, in Brooklyn. And so you have to review your estate, because many people have done estate plans many years ago and made certain provisions that are now, I can't say obsolete, but they are not the best way to administer your estate under today's rules.
A good example of that would be some folks years ago were planning for the estate taxes to kick in, or they were concerned about them. Sometimes they call those the death taxes. But those limits have changed over the years, and for a married couple now, very easy to protect or be exempt from the estate tax if you have less than right at $10 million. It's not a big concern for most people.
That's correct, Sinclair. In fact, the exemption today is $5,340,000, and it's adjusted for inflation, so that this number will continually change. And when you take a married couple, that's about $10 million, almost $10,700,000 that they have that can be exempt from estate taxes if they do some proper planning. If they don't, they may lose part of that exemption. But even there, they need to do some planning, because there's some things that need to be done at the first party's death that weren't in the law 5 years ago.
And we were chatting about this just before we went to air today. A lot of folks have an A-B trust, which was to maximize that exemption. They may or may not need it.
That's true, Sinclair. Under the new tax law, and we'll talk about this some future conversation, but in more detail. But there have been many changes in the tax law that you may, if you have an A-B split, you may not need one. In fact, it may not be desirable to do one because of the additional costs and administrative costs, plus the tax implications. So this is why you need to have a review of your plan to see, is it appropriate for the current law, under the current law, and under your current financial circumstances, as well as your family circumstances.
There's really a lot that goes into it. The basic idea that I'd love to get across to people today is, if you have an estate plan and maybe you've got a trust and it's sitting in a bookcase somewhere gathering dust, pull it out. Call Knollmiller and Aronofsky, talk to Jim Knollmiller, and go over that. Make sure it's correct, make sure it's working, because I can tell you one of the things you don't want to leave as a legacy is a messed up estate. It just doesn't work for anybody. And I'll say one more thing as well. I think that most Money Radio listeners do have some sort of a plan. If you don't have a plan, do not delay. There is no excuse. I don't care what you're saying. I know you're busy and everything else, but if you don't have a plan, for goodness sake, don't be foolish. It's easy. The process is really quite easy. Knollmiller and Aronofsky, located in Mesa, 480-345-0444. 480-345-0444. There's a website, and this is an easy one to remember, aboutestateplanning.com. Aboutestateplanning.com. Call and arrange a get acquainted session. 480-345-0444. Jim Knollmiller from Knollmiller and Aronofsky. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sinclair.